Okay, as a reminder, stay off the back of the heads. Anything right here is all good. Anything right here is all good. Obey the commands at all times. Protect yourselves at all times. When I call for the break, give me a clean break. Now, as a sign of respect, touch gloves. Let's get down to business.
Keeshawn Williams, 22 years of age, known as the next big thing. Well, can he follow that moniker and put together a big performance tonight against Gaku Takahashi? Ray Flores, the Hall of Famer, Steve Fardo, as we begin the 2020 schedule for Showtime Championship Boxing here on Countdown Live. We go live on Showtime coming up in just over an hour. If you don't have Showtime, go to Showtime.com to start your free trial now. What are you hoping to see out of Keeshawn Williams here in this matchup against Gaku Takahashi, Steve?
Well, Ray, I'm going to begin by saying I'm a little surprised that Williams is fighting Takahashi at this point in his career. He's only had 7 fights, Williams, 6-0-1. And Takahashi, while he's lost 3 in a row, he's a very aggressive fighter, and he's been in with a pretty high class of opposition. So I'm a little surprised. This is a small step up for Keeshawn Williams.
When, as I look at Gaku Takahashi, he's fought the likes of Adrian Granados. He fought Jamonte Clark. He's fought Cameron Crail. That was a slip as Williams put the head down of Gaku Takahashi. He gives me some Emmanuel Augustus vibes when it comes to his herky-jerky style.
Right.
And for those who don't know who Emmanuel Augustus is, he had like a very unorthodox style. I think they called him, the Drunken Master or something along those lines. So that is, he was a fighter who fought literally anybody and everybody, and Gaku Takahashi gives me that same impression.
Well, you see that he's a tall, rangy fighter. He is not a mover or a boxer. He likes to come forward. And you can see how awkward it is. He's a little erect right there. I'd like to see him bend a little bit more. But right now,
there's a nice shot for Takahashi as Williams certainly that got his attention.
Williams taking his time right now. He seems maybe a little thrown off. There's a big right hand by Williams, but he seems a little thrown off by the awkwardness of Takahashi.
He has he has the nickname, I believe it was Samurai, is coming forward, very different, unorthodox.
Kamikaze, I think.
Kamikaze, that's what
yeah,
it was, yes. Kamikaze joining us from Yokohama, Japan. They have a very nice arena there, by the way. But for Keeshawn Williams, 22 years of age, obviously trains out of the Headbangers Gym under Barry Hunter, who used to be the lead trainer of the now retired Lamont Peterson. We saw Lamont Peterson on Showtime Championship Boxing many, many times. So you know he's going to be in condition. You know he'll be ready to go. And you know he's going to have solid fundamentals.
And he's showing a lot of patience right now against an awkward fighter. And we talk about Takahashi. Yeah, he's lost 3 in a row. I think 4 out of his last 5. About 4 years ago, he fought a fighter named Kim Paulson from Denmark who had a record of like 24-3. Not only did he knock him out, he broke his jaw in 2 rounds. So this guy can be somewhat dangerous.
Well, and at 32 years of age, it is still, 32 isn't necessarily old per se. It's not breathing from the fountain of youth, but still.
Yeah, I agree with you. He's had 27 fights, which is that's a big step up for someone like Williams who's still a novice.
Straight left as Williams swarming Takahashi to conclude the round. Ray Flores alongside the Hall of Famer Steve Farhard ringside here at Barclays Center. Through one, Steve, I think this is a very unique matchup because from a style standpoint.
Well, that's what it's all about. Your first 10, your first 15 fights when you're a prospect. You want to face a lot of different styles. Your trainer, your manager, that's their job to pick guys that you're going to learn from. And I don't think Keeshawn has faced anybody with a style like Takahashi yet, because there's very few fighters who fight like Takahashi.
Well, you and I, or at least from my perspective, I'm a gambling man. So I like the fact that they are taking a risk with Keeshawn Williams. They could have moved him at a slower pace. I'm not saying this is a massive jump up, but it is a dangerous fight for him.
Well, I'll tell you something that a lot of the viewers and boxing fans might find totally against how they think. I would make the argument, Ray, and I'll continue this point as the round starts. I'd make the argument that when you have a high prospect, a legitimate prospect, mismatches are good. They're not bad, as long as they're in the first 10 fights or so. And the reason for that is you don't want 50-50 fights when you're developing a prospect. You can ruin a fighter psychologically. Theoretically, if he takes 6 50-50 fights, he's going to win 3 and lose 3. You don't want that from a prospect. You want him to be 10-0. So if you can get fights where you're 95% sure you're going to win, but you can learn something also, because of the style of the opponent or because of the resistance of the opponent, that's good matchmaking.
Yeah, you don't take a baby at 1 month old, throw him in the middle of the ocean and say, okay, go ahead and swim.
Right.
I mean, that just doesn't make any sense. And the same could be said for young fighters in their first 10 fights. Keeshawn Williams trains out of the D.C. area. You know, the one thing I love about Barry Hunter and the Headbangers Gym, and we're going to see one of their pupils again coming up with Patrick Harris, is how disciplined they are. They have a very military mentality, old school way of training in that gym led by Barry Hunter.
Well, Barry Hunter's a miracle, man. I mean, what he's done with the Peterson brothers is just remarkable. He deserves some kind of prize that much bigger than boxing could give him for what he's done for those kids. And you're right. He's a disciplinarian, and I think he teaches these fighters to be young men, not just young boxers.
Well, it's always impressed me about Barry Hunter fighters, and Keeshawn Williams is an example of that, is that the guys come in on weight, in shape, ready to go, and very rarely do they ever pull out of fights. A nice left hook for Williams against Takahashi.
What you see with Takahashi is a lot of wasted movement. You know, he's very animated in his upper body. He's constantly flicking out that right jab, but not really throwing it. And right now he's backing up, and I think that's a bad sign because he's a fighter who pretty much is a face-first, come-forward guy.
There's a nice straight right hand that found its destination for Williams as he follows it up with the jab, and now Williams is starting to open up. I think he's started to gauge and find his rhythm. Under a minute to go in the second.
Williams patient. You know, you're not going to see a lot of jabs from Williams because, as we know, it's very difficult to jab against a southpaw. Fighters have given me a myriad of reasons why it's so difficult to jab against a southpaw. It shouldn't seem like it's that difficult, but it is. Based on angles, and a lot of fighters tell me when they jab against a lefty, they feel like they're jabbing at his lead glove, not at him. So you're not going to see a lot of jabs from Williams, but he is landing that counter right hand. He just missed with that one. Landing that counter right hand enough to have control of the fight.
Well, Williams is starting to gauge the timing of Takahashi. He's getting and settling into his rhythm, which is very important.
Yeah, and very difficult against a fighter like Takahashi, who's so animated.
It's almost like when he throws, as he's getting ready to throw, you have to throw the right hand so that you can beat him to the punch. As the second draws to a close. Takahashi taking some time to get back to the stool, by the way.
Took a leisurely stroll. Keeshawn Williams, and we take a look at Takahashi. Williams coming in at 150. That's a career high. I presume his intent is to make his name as a welterweight. Again, he's only 22 years old, where Takahashi is 32 years old.
When Takahashi is already starting to, you're seeing his activity level has lessened. Williams is up. He looks very fresh, comfortable. Now it seems like the wheels are starting to turn in the favor of Williams. Keeshawn Williams, 22 years of age. Coming up next, Patrick Harris, Clay Burns in our final matchup before we hit Showtime Championship Boxing in just over an hour. Danny Garcia in our main event against Ivan Redkach in the welterweight division.
And Patrick Harris will be the A side of that matchup, an undefeated fighter, stablemate of Williams. But the interesting story is Clay Burns. Clay Third Degree Burns. How's that for a nickname?
No, that is and you have a reason why he is known as Third Degree Burns.
Yes, we'll get into. We'll leave that as a tease, and we'll tell the fans about it when they get in the ring.
Well, we'll see if Gaku Takahashi, if he stays in the pocket, if he's going to get burned by one Keeshawn Williams, because he's been eating that right hand in abundance, as you just saw. Williams just land another right.
You know, you hear broadcasters and trainers all the time say, use your jab, you know, get off, throw punches. Well, Takahashi's not throwing that jab because if he does, he's going to get countered with that right hand every time. So he's being defensive in not using his jab.
Well, I'm curious to see what he decides to do if he tries to attack the body if you're Takahashi. because at this point, Steve, I think that his upward movement is wasting quite a bit of energy, whereas on the opposite way with Keeshawn Williams, he's very economical with his movement. And you're seeing there is a little bit of a bruise underneath the left eye of Gaku Takahashi, largely in part from those right hands from Keeshawn Williams.
Right now, it seems like Williams is trying to suck Takahashi in so he can land right hands like that.
Takahashi comes in. They both are still trying to feel out each other's distances. Has to be so difficult if you are a young 22-year-old to have someone throw as much as you can and give you these unorthodox looks, Steve. But again, it's a part of the maturation process in prize fighting.
Yeah, styles. You want to see all different kind of styles when you're coming up. And not only is Takahashi a southpaw, but he's an awkward southpaw. It's kind of amazing a guy like this ever gets work because a lot of people will stay away from fighting him. Who needs it? There are other guys you can fight.
I mean, it's the same way. It's like fighting a Cuban southpaw. It's like stay as
disaster.
far away from them as possible.
You know, when you look at a guy like Erislandy Lara, you wonder how he ever got fights.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to deal with a Rubik's Cube that can move and punch.
Exactly.
As we are final moments, and that is the end of the third round. Keeshawn Williams battling Gaku Takahashi, in control, though, Steve, through the first 3 rounds.
Yeah, he's won the rounds. He's choosing not to attack and not to be reckless or try to get on the inside. He's taking his time. And, it's not a scintillating fight. It's not a scintillating performance, but that's largely because Takahashi's giving him so little to work with.
Well, and also, Steve, as a young fighter, there are, when you're trying to make your name for yourself and crack double digits, you have to fight guys like this. You have to fight, in my opinion, a tough Mexican fighter. You have to fight a southpaw. You have to fight a mover. Things along those lines, a Colombian power puncher.
Right.
It's all a part of being baptized as a prize fighter in boxing.
It's very hard for young fighters to remain patient. Sometimes it's hard for their management or their promoters to remain patient. What makes it more difficult today, Ray, is you have fighters like Lomachenko, fighters like Usyk, who come over here and they're ready to fight for world titles before they even fight a pro bout. That's unusual. For most fighters, even top prospects who have good amateur careers, when they're young, it takes a while. It takes, years.
Well, I mean, even look at the 2012 Olympic team, the 2016 Olympic team. It is not an easy process to go from 0-0 to then being 12-0 and a world champion. That doesn't happen overnight.
No, it doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen to that many fighters. The important thing, I think, is when you're a young fighter and developing.
Oh, big shot by Williams. Takahashi got rattled, and now Williams going on the offensive. Big sledgehammer right hand, followed by a left. Takahashi in some trouble. Sade Murdo watching the action. Can Williams find a way to close the show here in the fourth against Gaku Takahashi?
What Williams doesn't want to do here is smother himself. You see, he's getting a little too close, not giving himself an arm's distance to punch.
And with as wild, as erratic as Gaku Takahashi is, Williams must be very careful here on the inside.
And what Williams did right is when he initially hurt Takahashi, he went to the body.
But Takahashi comes forward, pops that jab. Looks like Takahashi is gaining some confidence, even though there is some blood streaming. It looks like a laceration on his left cheekbone.
Well, a fight broke out, and I think Takahashi likes it.
Yeah,
that's what
exactly.
he's used to, right?
It reminds me similar of Dominic Brazil, a guy, aside from the Wilder knockout that we saw last May here at Barclays Center. But Dominic Brazil needs to get hit a couple times, and then he's like, all right, I'm in a fight.
Exactly.
And it wakes him up, similar to Gaku Takahashi.
Yeah, some fighters like to feel the power of the other fighter. Now, Takahashi's left eye's a mess now. But I'll tell you, he's never been down, or at least I should say he claims he's never been down, because I haven't seen all of his fights to confirm that. But he does have a good chin.
I almost feel like Gaku Takahashi loves this kind of dealing with the adversity. It's like, okay, now I have my back against the wall. Let me fight better. Some guys fight better with adversity.
Yeah, and he's faced adversity this round, and look who the at least inching forward the aggressor is. It's Takahashi.
But still, Keeshawn Williams in control and not deriving from his game plan. The blood streaming from the left eye, and now Takahashi, hands by his sides, no defense whatsoever.
Williams didn't go for the bait, though.
Told you he was different. Emmanuel Augustus 2020, Gaku Takahashi. Nearing the end of the fourth. Big shot for Takahashi, and we are halfway home, and he's loving it.
He's playing the crowd, Ray.
I love it. Are you not entertained? Because I certainly am.
Now I am. After 3 or 4 pretty boring rounds, Takahashi made it exciting here, and Williams made it exciting by hurting him.
Hey, don't forget, still have another matchup here on YouTube and Facebook, all for free. And also, if you don't have Showtime, what are you waiting for? You got 54 minutes to hook yourself up. Showtime.com to start your free trial. We have a triple header on tap. Stephen Fulton in action from West Philadelphia in our opening contest. Also, Jared Hurd back inside the ring at 154 against Francisco Santana. In the main event, Danny Garcia, former welterweight world champion, against Ivan Redkach.
And the best part of this show for me, Ray?
What's that?
It's in Brooklyn. I get to be home in about 20 minutes after the show.
You are a very, very lucky man, my friend.
But I pay my dues. I go to Sloan, Iowa. I go to Miami, Oklahoma.
You will be down in Alexandria, Louisiana next week.
Shreveport.
On Showbox.
Shreveport. Yeah. So that'll be, hey, we're going south. It's the right direction to go. Now, I think there's an issue with the eye here.
And now they are taking a look at it. The locals here in Brooklyn getting a little bit restless. You heard from the crowd say, let them fight. And I agree, especially with how compelling that fourth round was. Takahashi with a big straight left to start the round.
This is kind of the Takahashi we were expecting from the beginning, but didn't get.
Well, he's coming in with a reckless abandon. Is Gaku Takahashi, but Keeshawn Williams is unflappable and is still remaining patient, looking for those openings that he can seize control of.
One thing I like about what Williams is doing, he's not wasting a lot of energy. And, he's never been 8 rounds. That's the schedule for this fight. We're only in the start of the second half of this fight, and he should have plenty of energy left, where Takahashi sort of needlessly burns a lot of energy.
And, Steve, the levels of prize fighting, some fighters do not reach 8 rounds until they're 10 or 11-0. With Keeshawn Williams, they said, look, here we go. You have 7 fights in. We're going to put you in an 8-rounder against someone who is as unique as Takahashi.
Yeah, every fighter advances at different rates. Patrick Harris, who we're going to see in our next fight, he's 17 or 18-0. Never been in a Schedule 10. Has not been in a Schedule 10 yet. So his advancement has been a little bit more deliberate.
We'll see how it all plays out. But so far, Keeshawn Williams is dealing with the unique style of Gaku Takahashi. But so far, Steve, I think he's passing the test, is Keeshawn Williams.
Well, he's winning every round, that's for sure. I just like to see Takahashi be the Takahashi we know, because I thought he was aggressive at the start of this round, fearing that the fight might be stopped because of the eye. But he's sort of fallen back into the same rhythm he's been in for the past 4 rounds.
Well, Brian Campbell made a great point earlier with Luke Thomas and said, Gaku Takahashi's game plan is literally to stand in the middle of traffic, and that's what he does.
Right.
And I agree with him, and that's okay, because we need fighters like that to take chances and risks.
Exactly right. Boxing is a lot more entertaining because of fighters like Takahashi, and he has a poor record, not a poor record, but he's
above 500.
16-10-1, right? There have to be fighters like that.
He's one of those guys that is a little bit above 500. And right now, under final 30 seconds of this 5th round with Keeshawn Williams and Gaku Takahashi. Still to come, Patrick Harris against Clay Burns. Harris undefeated. He is the nephew of Lamont and Anthony Peterson. Peterson, former world champion. Big right hand that connected by Keeshawn Williams. It woke up Gaku Takahashi. That's the end of the 5th.
Ray, every time Takahashi gets hit with the biggest punches of the night, that's when he starts fighting back. You made the point. It's exactly right. He's like a caged animal. He's most dangerous after getting hurt.
He needs to face adversity in order to throw more offense and be more offensive. Take a look at some of this action, Steve.
Well, I said it's hard to land a southpaw jab against the southpaw. You saw Williams do just that. But we have not seen a lot of jabs from him tonight. And there's maybe the best punch of the fight. Oh, that left hook, that follow-up left after the sweeping right. Just missed or maybe glanced off the chin of Takahashi. That could have been really effective.
And Steve, can you talk about the point of it's not easy to look good against some fighters. It's almost impossible sometimes. Individual styles, it is very difficult to say, all right, I blew this guy out or I really dominated him from start to finish from an aesthetic standpoint.
Sure, and I think one of the reasons that's the case is if you have an opponent who gives you very little to work off of, meaning very few counterpunching opportunities, you have to create the offense yourself. If it's not necessarily your style to do that, you know, like an Ivan Redcatch is going to create offense by himself. He doesn't need you to do anything. But a fighter like this, like Williams, who's more of a boxer, he has to get used to trying to create his own offense.
And it's also a mental game, Steve. Do I throw? Should I be? If you are typically a counter puncher and this guy's waiting for you to throw, should I be the one to go first? When do I go first? When do I throw my power punches?
Nice right hand by Williams. I think that when you're a counter puncher and you're not being given much to counter against, really one of the only things you can do, assuming you don't want to change your style, is try to feint. Try to draw the lead from the opponent and then counter that.
When Keeshawn Williams is starting to get more aggressive, you see that he is starting to walk forward towards Takahashi. There's a sweeping left hook that found its mark. Right hand that backed up Takahashi. 100 seconds remaining here in the 6th.
Williams with only 2 KOs in his 7 fights. Maybe not the biggest puncher. He's been pretty accurate with his right hand. Always the weapon of choice against a lefty. You see their feet. Whenever you fight a southpaw, whether you're the fighter, the right-hander or the lefty, you want to keep your lead foot outside of the lead foot of your opponent. That gives you a better angle to land your backhand.
When Williams is so judicious and focused on doing exactly what you just pointed out. Also still to come, Steve, later tonight, Jarrett Hurd back in action against Francisco Santana. Santana appreciates the opportunity, and Jarrett Hurd told you that, look, I am going to be more defensive, and I don't want to get hit as much as I have in the past.
We'll see, right? I mean, as soon as Santana shows his aggressiveness, we'll see if Hurd reverts back to his old style. But he's got a new trainer. I predicted he'll come out trying to box a little bit more, use that reach. He's in with a smaller, naturally smaller guy. How long that new style lasts, we'll see.
But at the end of the day, Steve, a big right hand that found its destination for Williams. But at the end of the day, a fighter is probably going to go back to his old ways at some point.
Yeah, that's usually the case, Ray. You revert.
Good jab for Williams, snapping back the head of Gaku Takahashi. And Takahashi starts to swing for the fences towards the end of the 6th. 2 more rounds to go between Keeshawn Williams and Gaku Takahashi. Through 6, Steve, what's your assessment?
Well, it's clearly Williams' fight. As the fight progresses, Ray, I'd say one thing I'd like to see more of, he's landing a lot of big right hands, but they're one at a time. He's not really following up with a left hook. I'd like to see him try that. And the jab, I'll give him an excuse for. He's fighting a southpaw, hard to land the jab against the southpaw. But he's landing single shots. They're effective shots, they're accurate shots, but they're almost all one at a time.
What about some body work from Keeshawn Williams? He has a very tall frame to target in Gaku Takahashi.
He's really not fighting the type of fight that's going to enable him or give him the opportunity to punch to the body much, because this fight has been fought at range. And it's very, very difficult to land consistently to the body when you're a good distance away from your opponent.
Well, we'll see if how the next 2 rounds play themselves out, but Keeshawn Williams still looks in very good shape coming off his stool. There was a thought process coming into this fight. Is this a little bit too much for Keeshawn Williams, or is this the right move? I think the answer is the secondary, that this was the right move for Keeshawn Williams.
Yeah, I would agree, and he's getting the experience of probably going 8 rounds for the first time. Until you do it, you haven't done it. And going 8 is a step, going 10 is a step. That'll come later for this young fighter. But, if you look at Keeshawn Williams' record, almost all his opponents had 3 fights, 4 fights, 5 fights of experience. He's fighting a guy with 27 fights.
Big right hand that snapped back the head of Gaku Takahashi. This is Williams' second straight fight here at Barclays Center. He fought here back in August of last year. And for Keeshawn Williams, assuming that the result holds true, his confidence, Steve, will likely grow from this.
I would think so. It's a small but subtle, small and subtle step in his development. He gets good work in the gym.
There's a nice right that found its destination for Keeshawn Williams.
But the one thing Williams is doing is after he lands his right hand, he's almost either standing still or stepping backward out of range. That's why he's landing only 1 shot at a time. Now he's trying to throw some combinations, although he missed those.
Double left hook for Williams as we are at the midway point of the 7th. Ray Flores, the Hall of Famer Steve Farhood, still to come. Patrick Harris and Clay Burns. That is up next here on Showtime Countdown Live. We go live on Showtime coming up in just over 40 minutes. Danny Garcia, Ivan Redkach, also Jared Hurd, Francisco Santana in our co-main event. And from West Philadelphia, Stephen Fulton, undefeated in action as well.
That's the fight. That's the one I want to see, the first fight of the night on Showtime.
Well, Fulton and Hagai, yeah, that should be an excellent matchup. Hagai also undefeated as well.
And Hagai's been on Showbox, our prospect series, 3 times. Looked very good, very strong.
Stephen Fulton now with Julian Williams no longer being the world champion, trying to carry that mantle for the rich boxing city of Philadelphia. Right now, though, representing the Maryland area, Keeshawn Williams from the Headbangers Gym, led by Barry Hunter. Barry Hunter certainly has his work cut out for him because he has Patrick Harris next.
I just thought about, Ray.
What is that, Steve?
If you're a punch counter, one of the CompuBox guys, do you count those Takahashi little baby shots as punches? I guess not, right?
And that's the end of the 7th. That's something that I have to ask the Canobios from CompuBox. Bob Canobio going to be inducted, going to join you in the International Boxing Hall of Fame this year. Congrats to him. Congrats to Dan Goosen, former Hall of Fame promoter who passed away. Also Lou DiBella as well. Big right hand from Keeshawn Williams.
I mean, when Williams throws a punch, he throws a punch. When Takahashi, look at the little baby moves with his punches. They're almost more feints than they are jabs. And he's been doing it all fight, and that's what I mean by wasted motion.
And getting to your point, Steve, I'm going to have to ask the Canobios if they do count those punches from Takahashi.
Yeah, what constitutes a punch?
Put it this way, being a punch counter is a job that I would not want in this business.
I tried it. Bobby Canobio, years ago when CompuBox was young, brought over his equipment to my house, and I tried to do it, and I was dreadful. And he said to me, "Don't worry, it's your first time. No one's good at it the first time." Well, there was never a second time for me.
Well, I think you are better suited being where you are, Steve. Obviously, the Hall of Famer alongside me here ringside. Final round between Keeshawn Williams and Gaku Takahashi, and Williams is pounding away on Takahashi to start the final round.
And you're seeing combinations from Williams, something I had been critical of saying that he wasn't doing up to this point. But he's walking his man down now.
And Gaku Takahashi looked like he just took a shower with as much as his hair is all messed up.
And his eye is worse than that. Left eye.
That has been from those right hands from the 22-year-old in Keeshawn Williams. But Gaku Takahashi still in front of him, still moving, still feinting. You can't fall asleep at the wheel against a guy like Gaku Takahashi. There was a right that missed by Takahashi. They both exchanged in the center of the ring.
Takahashi's a fighter who clearly was not taught fundamentals given the size he has and the range he has. Never really learned to use his feet properly to maximize his physical advantages.
Well, I think that Gaku Takahashi can be labeled as an unorthodox brawler because he isn't a brawler, just your standard brawler. He's an unorthodox brawler in that aspect, Steve.
Yeah, he's been that in spots tonight. In other spots, he's been very quiet. He's sort of making it easy for Williams right now.
Well, Williams tattooed him with a couple of right hands as we are under a minute left here in the 8th. Big right hand stunned Takahashi. Buckled his knees and blood streaming from the left side of the face of Gaku Takahashi.
Who knows? Maybe Williams would have gotten the stoppage had he done more body work, but you can't do body work when you land one shot and you step back.
Well, it's what we pointed out a few rounds ago, Steve, is should he have made an emphasis on targeting the body. But still, Williams, despite dealing with the unique style of Takahashi, is looking impressive here this evening.
Well, we'll see what the judges say, Ray, but I don't think Takahashi's won any rounds.
There's a right hand stun Takahashi as we near the conclusion of this 8-round affair. Keeshawn Williams looking impressive against the Japanese Gaku Takahashi. They both exchanged pleasantries to end the fight.
Great learning experience for Keeshawn. Going 8 for the first time. Facing a southpaw for, I believe, the second time in his career.
Passed the test,
yeah.
Looked impressive,
yeah.
Didn't get the knockout, but still looked impressive, didn't lose a round, or I didn't think he lost a round. Maybe he did on the judges' scorecards, but went out, handled business as he was supposed to.
Yeah, this was by far the most experienced opponent of his career, so I think he did fine.
And let's take a look and revisit some of the action.
Watch the big shots he lands, and you see Williams stepping back. The left hook came from too far away. He may have to work on, he got hit there with the left hand, but he may have to work on inside fighting a little bit more, just for when he needs it. A fight like tonight, maybe it would have been useful.
And they are taking off the gloves of Keeshawn Williams. What would you like to next see out of Keeshawn Williams, Steve? The next move for Williams?
Well, now he's had 8 pro fights. He's still a baby. He's been 8 rounds, so I don't think you want to go backward and go back to 6. Stay busy. Lots of fights this year. I think at this point in a fighter's career, when he fights in mid-January or late January, as this is, I think you want to fight maybe 5 times this year. That would be good. Variety of styles. Nobody who probably can beat him or threaten to beat him. But, think about making a more serious move next year.
Well, and this is why shows like this, like Showtime Championship Boxing Countdown Live, like the show boxes of the world, are so important for boxing because these young fighters get the platform to display their talent and face opposition that should give them some issues.
Yeah, and it's really great, especially for hardcore fight fans, because in the old days, my day, you didn't get 4 and 6 and 8 round fights on TV. You only saw the main events.
Well, I remember even back when I was, coming up as, a young teenager and, you only had the 2 fights on television.
That was it.
And I had to read the reviews from, the writers at ringside, et cetera, to be able to see 6 fights on the whole, I think is exponential. And now let's send it up to ring announcer with the decision. Here is Miguel Flores.
Ladies and gentlemen, after 8 rounds of action, we go to the judges' scorecards. Judge John Basili saw it 79-73. Judge Ken Ezzo saw it 78-74, and Judge Robin Taylor saw it 80-72. All three judges in favor of your winner by unanimous decision. The next big thing, Keeshawn Williams.
Keeshawn Williams gets the victory over Gaku Takahashi. A workmanlike performance for Williams.
One of the judges found 2 rounds to give to Takahashi. One judge gave him 1 round. I agree with the scoring of the judge who gave him no rounds.
I agree. I thought it was a shutout. Now let's send it back upstairs to Brian and Luke.
Thank you, gentlemen. Brian Campbell, Luke Thomas. Brian, we saw some